Hello and welcome back to the channel. In today's video I'm going to be sharing with you how to cut a stylish Queen Anne neckline Victorian corset blazer dress. So if this is something you like, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button. Let's dive right into today's video. So to start, here is my pattern paper, and I've gone ahead to mark all my vertical measurements, which includes my shoulder to bust, shoulder to under bust, shoulder to waistline, and for the top length you can add 5 to 7 inches to get that. So after that I went ahead to mark my dart. To mark my dart is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. My nipple to nipple or bust span is 7 inches, and I went ahead to mark that divided by 2, which is 3.5. So I marked that on the bust, on the under bust, on the waist, and also on the top length. So after that I'm just going to go ahead to draw a straight line to connect. So after I'm done connecting this, the next step I'm going to take now is to mark my shoulder divided by 2 plus half. My shoulder is 14 inches divided by 2. I have 7 plus half, making it 7.5. So from that 7.5 point, I came down by 1 inch, and I'll connect to draw a straight line. After I'm done connecting, I'm going to go ahead to mark my chest line, which is your bust circumference divided by 6 plus 1.5 inches. Now I'm going to go ahead to also draw a straight line at that point. After I'm done drawing out, I'm going to go ahead to measure and make sure I have a straight line. Mark what I have on the shoulder, which is 7.5 also, and then go ahead to draw a straight line connecting the 2 points. This is to make sure that I have a straight line there. Now I'll divide it by 2, fold my tape, mark, and I will come in by half. At the chest line, I will go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4, which is 33 divided by 4. I have approximately 8.3, and I will just go ahead to connect it all the way up, touching the half inch I have at the center. Now I'll go ahead to mark a dart intake of 1 inch on both sides. So if you're plus size, you can go ahead to use 1.5 inches, and after this I'm just going to go ahead to draw a straight line at those points, and also repeat this at the other side of my pattern paper. Now from the under bust, from the bust I'll connect to the under bust, and also repeat this at the other side of my pattern. But before that, I'll just go ahead to blend what I have here in very well, and I'll use my marker to outline it. Then go over to the other side, connect from the bust down to the under bust this way, and I'm just going to go ahead to connect all the way down. After I'm done connecting this, I'm just going to go ahead to come up by 1.5 inches. This is where I want the Victorian corset to start, and I will just mark. So you can use 2 inches if you want. It totally depends on what you want. So after I'm done marking that, I'm just going to go ahead to also extend my dart line, which is my nipple to nipple divided by 2. I'll mark and connect. So after I'm done marking, I'll be marking 1 inch on both sides, and after that I'll just go ahead to connect back my dart from that 1 inch to the bust, and also repeat this at the other side of my pattern paper. So I'll just go ahead and connect this, and also connect to the other side of my pattern paper. Now, so I'm going to go ahead to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 here, and then measure this dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance, extend it to the bust. At the under bust, I'll mark my under bust circumference divided by 4, measure the dart intake, replace, and add my sewing allowance. At the waistline, I'm also going to mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and I'm going to go ahead to mark, measure this dart intake, replace it, and I will be adding my sewing allowance to it. So you can use the sewing allowance of 1 inch to 2.5 also. Then at the lower part, I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, and also add my sewing allowance to it. Now I'll just go ahead and place my curve drew, connect from the bust down to the under bust and to the waistline, and take it down to the top length. So I'll use my marker to connect, and I'll go ahead to cut out this pattern before we'll alter it. So to alter this pattern, I'm just going to go ahead to draw out that slight design we have here, and I'm just going to go ahead to create like a curve and then connect. So from this part, I'll also create like a curve and connect. So by the time you blend it in, you notice that you have like one or two curves on that side, whatever that design is. And I'll just go ahead to mark my basic neckline of 3 inches, come down here, mark 1.5 or 2 inches, and I'll go ahead to connect at this point. And I'll just go ahead to use my marker to connect and outline the rest of my pattern. So for the asymmetric neckline on top of my Victorian corset, mine is not so deep, so you can just go ahead to make yours deeper. And this is what I meant by, if you blend it in, you're going to get the shape that you have on top of the pattern. And after this, I'm just going to go ahead, so I'll just go ahead and connect and draw a straight line at the waistline. So at the upper part, I'll just go ahead to create a simple style line, so that you'll be having the Victorian corset effect on the upper part. So I'm not snatching my waist. This dress is actually free, so you don't really need to go ahead to snatch your waist. So all I'm going to do now is just to go ahead to label or number it, so that I don't misplace each part for the other part. So you can use a style line to create design on your dress, or you can use it when you want to insert that to your dress also. So I'll just go ahead and label this, and I'll be cutting this out. And for the lower part, I will be blending in the dart. So at this part, I'll mark 0.25 to take out any bulginess, or to avoid the yoke being too excess. So I'll just use my scissors and correct the neckline a bit, and I'll just go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. So if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button, give this video a thumbs up, and also leave your comment at the comment section, and any question you have also. So for the lower part, I'm just going to blend in this and cut it as one piece. So I just cut out this to create that walt pocket effect, or a pocket effect on that point. So I'll just be pinning this down and cut the lower part as one piece. So after this, we are going to go ahead to cut out the back pattern. So here's the back pattern. I've gone ahead to cut out all the basic measurements, just like we did in front. The only difference is that I don't have a zip at the front, so I included a zipper before cutting out the rest of the dress. So after that, I'll just go ahead and mark my nipple to nipple divided by 2. And all the measurements I'm taking for the back will start immediately after the zipper line. And after this, I'll just go ahead to draw a straight line, and I'll stop it at the waistline. So I'll be marking a basic dart of 0.5 inches at both sides, and I'll just go ahead to connect this all the way up, and also connect this at the other side. So after I'm done doing this, I'm just going to go ahead to use my marker to outline to make it more visible for you to see. So the next step from here now is to go ahead to insert my basic measurements. So I'm going to mark my bust circumference divided by 4 at the bust line, and after that, I'll just go ahead to add my sewing allowance. There's no dart on that point. I'll go over to the waistline, mark my waist circumference divided by 4, measure this dart intake, replace it, and also add my sewing allowance. So for the waistline, for the lower part, I did not add a dart on it, so I'll be using a different measurement there. So I'll be having 2 measurements on my waistline. So for the lower part, I'll just mark my waist circumference divided by 4, and this one I'll be using a marker to mark that, and I also included my sewing allowance to that pattern. And here I'll mark my hip circumference divided by 4, and I also added my sewing allowance at once, just like marking your waist circumference, adding your sewing allowance and cutting it together. So I'll just go ahead and connect the upper part. So looking at it now, you feel that the lower part is a bit smaller than the upper part. By the time we blend in the dart, it's going to align. And I went ahead to mark a style line at that point, and I will label my pattern as 1 2 3. So here I'll mark a basic neckline of 3 inches, and then I'm just going to connect it all the way to my nipple to nipple point for the yoke at the back. So I made the back yoke a bit bigger. So from the zipper line, I went in by ½ inch. This is just to get rid of the bulginess at the back of the dress. So I'll just go ahead and extend this all the way up and also extend this all the way down. So this is the zipper, and I'll just draw out the chest line area. That is where my pattern will start for the back, and after that I'm just going to go ahead to cut out the rest of my pattern. And while cutting this out, I will be cutting out the part that has a dart as separate piece for this pattern. So at this point, if you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please don't forget to hit on the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Thanks.